2. In the last meeting, we already covered the two part of the topic 2, which is we talk about the structure of our country, and also the structure and composition of the government. So we're still in the public sector organization, which is, if you remember, in the first topic that we already identify, the public sector organization in Malaysia are comprised of the government and government agency. So government, we divided into two level, which is the federal government and the state government. So why we have a two level? Because our country are federal form of country. So because we are a federation country. And then the second is when we talk about the government. So in terms of the structure, so government, in order to manage or admins the country, so the administration of the country are being divided into three different branch, namely legislative, executive, and judiciary. Why the administrative of the country being divided into these three? Because we have practiced the democracy system and monarchy, constitutional monarchy. So under the democracy and constitutional monarchy, so the head of country are the Yang di-Pertuan Agong or the king, but the Yang di-Pertuan Agong or the king do not exercise their power, and most of their power are delegated to the three different branch to be exercised, namely the legislative, who have the power related with the law, and then the judiciary, who have the power related with the justice, and the executive or the government, which is the rest of the power related with the country. So, or in simple, we see that the government have a power to govern or to run the country. Okay, so that is the important thing that we already discussed in the part A and part B. So now, today we will try to cover the part C and part D, which is the part C is we continue on the structure and administrative of the government agency, and the part D is on the governance. Okay, so by definition, what means of the government agency, which is the agency owned and established by the federal or state government. That is all the general definition of the agency. So, in more specific, if you look, there are another two, which is the second one, established under any act of parliament or enactment. This is referred to the agency who enjoy the autonomy power. So who enjoy the autonomy power? They have a special or specific definition, which is this agency need to be established based on the Act of Parliament for the federal agency, or based on the enactment of the state, if that is referred to the state government agency. Okay, so and then there is the Uh, the next one definition is created, managed, and financed by the government on behalf of the public. This is referred to the agency who do not enjoy the autonomy power. So who do not enjoy the autonomy power, they are created by the government based on the executive, not based on the constitution requirement, but based on the executive power. So either they are state or they are federal. So if they are the federal government, these agencies are established by the federal government based on the federal government power. Okay, okay, and then another aspect we can look on the government agency is the classification. So we can classify the government agency into federal government and state government. Because why? Because we have the two different level of the government. So the federal government agency, the state government agency. There is another classification beside we have the definition. And then this is the roles of the government agency. So this is related with the why the government need to establish the agency. So if the question is why the government need to establish the agency, this is related with the role. It's mostly to implement the executive function. So because executive function, executive power related with the govern country, government is that run the country. Running is providing the service, set up the facilities and so on. And then to ensure this can be done smoothly, they need to have the agency. They need to have the agency. To improve the efficiency in the public service because through agency that is the service can be delivered to the public, responsible to carry out the policy decided upon by the government. So all the policy, like for example, if right now we talk about the SOP on the COVID-19, who carry out all the government agency that is by their staff. Okay, and then in more picture, this is you're looking on this mapping. You can see that how we classify the agency. We look first on the federal government agency. So government agency, we can divide it into two main group. This is we talk about the federal, not broad qualification. Before that, I said that federal and state. This is on the federal government agency. We can classify into two main group. The first is a group under the ministerial agency. So which is this is based on the executive power. And then the second one is um, non-ministerial agency, which is non-ministerial agency. The establishment of the non-ministerial agency are based on the constitution, means that this particular agency are required by the constitution, federal constitution, to be established. So, and then under non-ministerial agency, we have a two uh, type of the agency, namely commission. So commission, and the second one is council. So those who have the rules and regulation. So you can see that, for example, um, uh, National Council. National Council, we have four National Council. Means that um, by definition, the rest, we have actually the number of National Council is so many, but uh, There is the national council that fall under the definition of the national council here are only four. So this is at the federal. So based on the Article 108, so you look on Article 108, National Finance Council. That is example of the National Council. And then National Land Council. And then National Council for Local Government. And um, another one is Council for Army. So that is the fourth national council. The rest of the council, it may fall under the statutory body. For example, you always um, familiar with the National Sport Council, NS, uh, NSC, National Sport Council. National Sport Council is under agency under the Ministry of Youth and Sport, which is they are the statutory body, not the National Council as what we have defined fall under the requirement by the Constitution to be established. Similar to that, you also are familiar with the National Blind Council. Uh, that is the this is not the government agency. This is the NGOs, National Blind Council. This is the NGOs. So therefore, you need to be careful in terms of the name. Not all the National Council fall under the uh, National Council as defined under the Constitution. Okay, so the second group is namely the commission. And then we have two type of commission, which is the permanent and the uh, temporary. So the permanent commission, I think you are quite familiar. Example is the election commission. Election commission. So election commission, this is example of the permanent commission. So we have, I think, five. Later we can see that, including the um, service, public service commission, PSC, and so on. So that is the um, non-ministerial agency. Means that this agency are not under the ministerial, under the management of the ministry, not under the responsibility of the ministry. On the second one, this is the most of the federal government agency. Here is a very limited number. Let's say, for example, on the council, we have only four. On the commission, we only have five. On the permanent, and then on the temporary depend on the situation. Like, for example, commission of the inquiry, royal inquiry. Let's say the coming one is the government uh, decide to form the uh, royal commission inquiry for tabung haji. So this is the temporary. So there is the non-ministerial agency. And then most of the government agency fall under the ministerial agency. So ministerial agency, this is the established based on the executive power or government power and constitution. And then um, the ministerial agency can be divided into central and operating. So central, what are the difference between central and operating? Operating, the name is management. Management agency or operating agency, or and the second one is central. So central agency, they do not provide the service to the people. directly. They do not provide the service to the people directly. I already talked before, one of the reason why the government established agency is to provide the service to the people. But central agency established not for the purpose to provide service to the people. So this agency provide service to the government, provide service to the government, not provide service to the people. So the second group, which is the central agency, we have around 39. So you can look on the textbook. For those who have textbooks, I provide the data of the matters. Okay, and then operating agency, the rest and the most of the agency fall under the operating agency. And then you need to remember both are under the ministerial group. Okay, and then operating agency, we have three different categories. The highest is the ministries. So right now, ministries, we have 32 ministries. 32 ministries, starting with the Prime Minister department, even the name department, but they are the ministries. This is the main ministries at the federal level. And then we have Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Housing and Local Government, Ministry of Health, and so on and so forth. So that is the ministries. So ministries, they are the operating. So therefore, they provide the service to the people. Okay. The second category, namely department. So some agency, they are categorized under the department. So department, you need to differentiate between department inside the ministries and department as agency. What we mean here is department as agency, not department under the ministries. Because, for example, we take the example of the Ministry of Higher Education. So under the Ministry of Higher Education, they have several departments inside that, like Department of the Private higher learning institution, public higher learning institution. There is the department, which is all the department. They have their uh, um, um, head of department, or we call the director. So not means of that, but this department is the agency itself. For example, we have the Department of Immigration, Department of the Road and Transport, RTD, Road and Transport Department, Department of Registration, National Department of Registration, NRD. So Custom and Excise, um, Royal Custom and Excise Department. So that is the agency under the federal, which is, but their status is department. So, and then the third one is we call the FPB, Federal Public Bodies. Federal Public Bodies, this is the bodies who a little bit different with these two. Even they are fall under the ministerial. They are fall under ministerial, but they most of them enjoy the autonomy power. So under FSB, under FPB, we have several classification. We have the first one is FSB, Federal Statutory Body. We have the GLIC, Government Linked Investment Company. So we have the OBA, Off Budget Agency. They all fall under the FPB. So this is how complicated the agency in the um, public sector, which is from there you already know why we say that one of the characteristics of the public sector, they have the uh, various function, and then they have varies in terms of the nature and the structure. Okay, so and then all the uh, operating agency purposely, they their main function and responsibility is to implement the government policy and procedure. So to implement the government policy and procedure. So let's say, for example, if talk about the import export. So this is under the custom department, who are responsible to implement the government policy about import export. They have the import duties, export duties, what kind of the good that are being charged as subject to the import duties, and so on. So this is the example of the uh, um, um, government agency. Okay, so this is what we talk about the ministerial. So ministerial agency. So this is the ministerial agency, what I already taught before. And then this is the general and specific function for the central agency. The objective of the central agency, such as we have the um, mampu, we have the federal treasury, FT, which is this is among the agency who that we will deal directly later when we talk about the financial management aspect. And then we have also public service department, PSD. So this is example of the central agency. And then this is the um, function of the central agency. Um, they have the responsibility to formulate the national financial and economic policies. Uh, so this is provided by the uh, central agency. So therefore, I say that central agency, they serve or they provide the service to the government in order to, let's say, on the relate with the financial and economic. So the policy of the five Malaysia plan, five Malaysia plan, this is under the economic planning unit agency. This is a central agency. So they are study and they provide to the government to implement the economic policy. So this is in general responsibility of the central agency in general. But in specific, we need to refer to a specific agency. Let's say I give example before is on the mampu. So which is they have five objective of the mampu. Okay, and then this is the federal government operating agency, or we call the management agency. Before that, this is the central. This is the management, which is the management agency. I say that purposely established to serve the public. So we have two categories of the agency. So on the ministerial, first to serve government, second to serve public. Because public and government need to be um, um, scrutinized and to be close relationship, because government um, are depend on the public are depend on the government. Both parties need to be closely related between these two. Okay, and then under the Ministerial, we have the ministries, department, and public federal government agency, or we call the public enterprise. Okay, so this is the uh, nature and purpose and the futures of the uh, ministries, department, and public enterprise. Okay, so this is continue on that, which is you can read directly on this matter for the implement agency. Uh, and then this is the government department, and this is the uh, federal public bodies, public bodies, which is we can classify into statutory body and non-statutory bodies. So what are the different? This is GLIC, GLC, and so on. That is all OBA. So that is fall under here. So if you are remember, um, most of our INASIS are using the name of the GLIC, like Petronas, MAS, TNB, Proton, and so on. Okay, so this is non-ministerial agency. As I already talked before, we have a commission and we have the national council. I think I do not repeat this matter because I already explained before. So we talk about the second category is namely the state government agency. So at the state government agency, basically they are quite similar with the federal government agency, but they have a little bit different, which is under the state agency, they don't have the ministerial. They have only the departmental, and statutory bodies. Okay, so departmental here, state department, which is another difference between the uh, um, state and federal agency. Federal agency mostly on the operating agency, mostly they are functional based classification. So means that uh, um, function of the education, we have the Ministry of Education. Function of the finance, we have a Ministry of Finance. Function of the defense, we have a Ministry of Defense. So based on the functioning, but on the state, they are based on the geographical, not based on the functioning, based on the geographical. Uh, So let's say, for example, State Department among the uh, very popular and important is we have the district department, or we call the district office. So that is the um, um, state agency, which is a very important at the local area. So they have the state district office. So every district, let's say in Kedah, we have 12 district. So they have a 12 district office to serve the people inside that district. And then among the service offer is varies, not based on the functional, means that including the development, including the land, welfare, and so on. That is all fall under that matters. Best example, you can see that if during the flood season, uh, during the flood season, so among the main agency involved is district office. There is where all the good and also the facilities being stationed, and then later will divide to those who are affected with that. Um, and then we have second is namely state statutory bodies. This is the agency who are state agency who are enjoy the autonomy power, and the uh, uh, popular example or the best example of this is we call the one of the is local government. Local government fall under this group. Uh, so beside that we have the UPEN, uh, economic planning unit, state economic planning unit, or in Kelantan, let's say SEDC, for example, state economic development unit. So there is the example of the state statutory bodies. Okay, so that is on the part C, which is we talk about the state government agency. Okay, class, before we move to the part D on the governance and good governance, any question?
Doctor, just want to ask, do central
Ya, pardon?
do central government is what we call kerajaan pusat in Malay? Just want to confirm.
Central? Can
Central
you
agency,
huh?
do central agency we call government kerajaan pusat in Malay?
Central agency?
Yes, doctor.
Central agency that is at the federal government. This is the
So,
government agency that established by the federal government.
oh, okay.
So as
Thank
I
you,
see
doctor.
that federal government established two different group of the agency. The first one we call the operating, the second one we call the central. Okay, Zudin?
Okay, doctor.
Okay, any more question? Aina, any question? Aina Salwa? Okay, so if there is no more question on this, I hope you understand on that matters. So let we look on the fourth part on part D. This is we talk about the government governance and good government. So this is talk about the management, management of the agency. Because why this is important? What have been listed on the what we say that to achieve the effective, efficient service delivery, to achieve the country aspiration, and so on. All these matter are affected by the governance, So therefore, we touch on the governance, and then this is I provide to you um, the meaning of the concept, which is some of students they have a problem in differentiate between the concept and the definition of the terminology. Okay, so basically, when we talk about the governance, it is very what we say that very lacking in terms of the completeness of the definition of the governance itself. When we do us uh, previously, we talk about the public sector management. What are the difference between public sector management and public sector governance? Basically, they have a quite similar. A best example I can give you analogy is in the previous in the early period, let's say in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, um, most of the posts we call them managing director is the highest post in the organization, especially in the private sector. So who will become the managing director of the company? That is to show um, the top person in that company after the means that those who are responsible for day-to-day operation. So not the on the policy. The policy are under the board of directors. But later on, starting with the early 2000 onward, um, the situation have been changed. There is no more managing directors. So therefore, right now they talk about the CEOs, Chief Executive Officer, as a main person who are responsible on the day-to-day operation. So the question is, what are the difference between the old one we call the managing director with a new one we call the CEOs? So similar to that in the public sector. Previously, we also talk about the management, public sector management. But later on, since we are adopt or influenced by the what we call the NPM, new public management, which is most of the people around the world talk about the governance, so they have the same role actually, but there is a little bit in terms of the coverage and in terms of the power and position. So therefore, the term governance until now still we do have a concrete definition. So the definition is varies. If those who are interested, you can search uh, the Google engine from that matters. Uh, you can see that there is around 30 different definition they are provide um, inside the literature talk about the governance. Okay, so but we will focus on the government governance, or in simple, governance in the government. So therefore, we use a specific term to differentiate between corporate governance, which is more toward on the private sector, and then government governance for the public sector. So there is a detail of that matters you can read for yourself. But as I want to stress on the in simple word, we can see that governance is related to the process that lead to the policy making and implementation. So there are two parts: policy making and implementation. So therefore, governance is important. because it show that how good you are in terms of the formulate the um, policy of the government, because the policy of the government will directly influence the people, will directly determine whether the people, the public, satisfied or not with the government. Because the policy of that, if we impose a very tight policy, for example, so what will happen? Of course, the people will not happy with that. Therefore, today, one of the situation is we have the what we call the information. We are spread out the false information or cheating information. Uh, so on the problem is uh, where we have the use of the media social to do something which is will create the uh, unsatisfied condition. Okay, so there is the governance thought about, and then this is the uh, several definition of the government governance. But what I provide here is this is talk about in general, exercise of the authority, and then conformance and performance, um, which is supervising executive performance and maintaining accountability, strategy formulation and policy making, and structure and process. But in Malaysia, so we refer to this. This is the uh, in Malaysia. So this is the meaning, and then the aspect that is adopted by Malaysian public sector, which is it provided by the Muhammad Siddiq Hassan. This is our ex Secretary General, our ex Secretary General, National Secretary General, in 2007, which is he stressed that the government governance comprise of the procedure, structure, and process. Means that when we talk about the government governance in Malaysia context, it must comprise of these three. So the procedure of the authority, which is starting with the very highest level, namely the minister, chief secretary general, which is the public service who are responsible, or we call the controlling officer. This is all the controlling officer, but depend on the level of the agency, and then including officers at all level of management. Means that in simple, we can say that those who are those who have a power in the organization, what are the procedure they are adopt and implement in performing their responsibility, in performing their responsibility. So the way, the procedure, let's say, therefore you can see that there is a different strategy in the government today as compared to the early days. Let's say in the last decade, um, we say that most of the people, you need to wait uh, for the officer. when you go to the government office, and then you need to wait for them uh, to get the service. But right now, the people are allowed to uh, provide the complaint and comment for those government do not provide uh, their service to the people. A best example, you can see that right now, while you read in the newspaper several days that um, our acting vice chancellor uh, go to the every district in the Kedah area just to meet the new student who are uh, get offered to pursue the study at UUM. And then previously, we didn't see that this matter. During my time, for example, I just received the offer letter, and then it up to me. Um, you need to go for yourself, take your initiative uh, to come to the UM to register. If you unable to come into register, so after several period, your name will be cancelled. But today you can see that most of the government top person in the government agency, they go down to see the public and then make it friendly with the public. That is part of the procedure. So therefore, the procedure is related with the how this particular person, or we call the um, responsible person, top management, dealing with the public in delivering the service and in discharge their responsibility, transparent, accountable, and prudent. So that is the first part of the governance. The second is structure, which is structure is including culture, policy, and strategies, as well as procedure in dealing with the various stakeholders. So that is the structure, which is, if you talk about the culture, you can see that the culture of the Malay is different with the culture of the Chinese, and then how this particular person, agency are dealing with them. Uh, so therefore, in simple, structure is relate with the who we are dealing. If we are dealing with the Malay, let's say we need to consider their culture in formulate the policy and strategies. And the third one is the process. So the process, how public agency are directed, controlled, and accountable in for implementing objective as agreed. So this is about the how. So so therefore, the government governance in Malaysia context comprise of the two main aspect we call the how and who. How, bagaimana melakukan, how to do, and then the second one is who. Siapa? Siapa yang patut? Siapa yang kita nak dealing? So that is the concept of the uh, governance in Malaysian public sector. Okay, so this is as I said that the element, and then this is the objective. Why governance is important? Because governance will ensure that people we have a confidence toward government ability. So this is important because if the people do not confident with the government ability, so therefore this matter is really with the way how the government being formed. the system, since our system is we are practice the uh, uh, democracy, which is the government are determined based on the election result. So those who are winning in the election, and then those who are gain the majority support in the parliament, they should be appointed as a prime minister. That is we call the validity way. So if there is no follow this matter, it may cause the confidence of the people toward the government. So you can see the effect of the um, less confident of the people. Let's say when the government introduce the policy, they are against that policy. They do not follow the policy. If you remember last year, maybe or early this year, so many people are violate of the SOP on the COVID, and then they even they know if they are violate, they are against the SOP, they may subject to the penalty and so on. They may be fined and charged by the government. But why they are or they do that? Because some of them is they are not confident with the government ability, government ability in reduce the um, uh, COVID infection, for example. So there is uh, the main objective through a confidence we can get the cooperation from the public. So the cooperation is very important, and to get the cooperation, it's not based on the act. So it's not based on the what we call them we penalize that, but the confidence need to come voluntarily, uh, come voluntarily uh, uh, by the people. So therefore, to make people confidence, you need to deliver. You need to deliver. So how to deliver? That is related with the governance. If you formulate a good policy and then you are implement transparently, so which is there is no complaint, there is no hidden agenda and so on. Of course, the confidence from the public is coming in directly. But if let's say the public feel that this is the some secret agenda, for example, there is some uh, matters which is hidden by the authority, of course the public will not uh, uh, confidence on the government ability. Okay, and the second objective is maintain accountability in the public delivery system. This is also important on the accountability where we talk about the fairness, where we talk about the transparency, where we talk about the equality. So this is talk about the accountability, which is in terms of the delivery system, we deliver all the facilities and then open to all. Uh, so therefore, um, 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 good governance from the governance, we try to achieve good governance. So what are the difference between governance and good governance? So governance, as I said, that this is talk about the um, uh, providing the service on your responsibility. But good governance is performing responsibility in a transparent, accountable, and prudential in terms of the decision making and delivery outcome. So we talk about the delivery outcome, which is not just deliver, but you need to be deliver effectively and efficiently. So therefore, we say that good. So that is we talk about the good governance, and then in the public sector, we have a two emphasis on the good governance. Good governance emphasis on the two aspect. Uh, the first one is on the performance. The second one is in terms of the conformance. And then both are equally. They are not like in the private. In the private, they are more toward on the conformance, not on the performance. Because why? Because performance is directly responsible. Those who are perform, let's say we talk about the company. I give you example on the company. Those CEOs, they are perform. They will get directly benefit to themselves, either in terms of the financial benefit or in terms of the other type of benefit, like a contract and so on. So therefore, uh, performance is not emphasis in the private sector, because performance is come directly from the responsibility of the uh, um, um, top management in the uh, uh, private sector. Uh, so therefore, they just looking for the conformance, means that the board of director try to make sure that all the decision made by the CEOs and so on, the management, are conform or comply with the rules, regulation, with the requirement and so on. But in the public sector, both are equally important, means that in the public sector, good governance emphasis are given to the performance. Why? Because the performance of the public sector is not directly influence the individual. So let's say we give you a simple example. We take example of the UUM itself. If the UM have a very good ranking in the public university ranking. Let's say currently we have a rank under the category of the 500 to 600, 500 to 800 in the ranking. And then later on, let's say we are able to move under the 200 categories, which is much better as compared to the previous ranking. So are the CEOs or the VC of the university get uh, directly benefit of that personally? No. Or those who perform well, are they we get the directly of that? No. So the benefit directly get by the organization. So they are not like in the private. So private CEO will get the benefit, the cash benefit, and so on. When once they achieve certain target in terms of the profit, for example, of course the employees will get the bonus. The CEO will get the extra of that matters, and so on. So there is a difference between in the public sector and the private sector. Why? Performance also important in the public sector, because why? Because through delivery of the performance, we provide effectively and efficiently. It will lead to the people confidence, people satisfaction, and then people satisfaction. So the government will get the benefit of that by maybe the public will reappoint upon they surrender their power, and then they have cast the ballot during the election, and then the same government will be appointed. So the second one is conformant. So conformant important. Why? The most thing is we need to understand, especially related with the financial matters. So all the financial are belong, all the resources are belong to the public. So therefore, to ensure there is no misuse, there is no misleading, there is no waste, and so on. Um, in order to provide the service, in order to spending the money, in order to do it with the public money, we need to be confirm all the action with the rules and procedure. With the rules and procedure. Common the procedure that we need to be follow is related with the how to award the project. For example, I give you the example how to award the project, or in simple how to buy the let's say facilities, to buy the facilities. We need to follow public sector. They need to follow the rules and procedure. So if to buy the amount is more than 1,000, we need to have a quotation, for example. So if to buy the metals amount, then more than 20,000 ringgit, for example, we need to have the tender. So that is why we need to do this, because this is to ensure that the money that we spend are go to the right way with the right procedure. That is we call the conformant. In order to provide the efficient and effective service, the procedure need to be followed. Against the procedure, this is not a good governance. So therefore, good governance are emphasis on the both conformant and performance. So this is what we I said on that matters. Okay, and then another important is in the principle of the good governance. We have four principles, namely stewardship, accountability, integrity, and transparency. What are the meaning of this? Um, we can see, you can read directly on this matter. So this is the purpose of the good governance, and this is the reference and further reading. With there, we have finished the topic 2. Next meeting, we have a topic 3, legal framework, which is on the legal framework. I hope you have the uh, rules and regulation. Those who are by the rules and regulation, I hope that by next week, uh, all the rules and regulation that you order reach your uh, home, your house, and then we can refer, because it is important for you to refer, not just hear what I provide here, but you need to refer directly to make it you familiar with the article and section. So it will help you, especially in answering the question and understanding this paper. Okay, so with that, that's all for today. So I hope you understand.